One of the big challenges, of course, is young audiences, as we know. Young audiences tend to be more difficult to attract into radio. When they do come into radio, they tend to listen for fewer hours than older listeners, and they are attracted to many other devices. And the idea you might have a radio set sitting on your kitchen windowsill that is your dedicated radio device is something that pretty much is alien to them. So this first session's really important. It's about youth radio and how you target youth radio. To moderate this, please welcome Andrew Davies, the head of Radio Pacific Broadcasting Union. Andrew.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good morning, everybody. So very excited to have this session, as Paul said. So I'm going to invite our three speakers to the stage, and I'll just call them out one by one if they can come up to the stage. So our first speaker this morning is going to be Jacqueline Unique from Mahaka Media. She's the program director of Mustang FM here in Jakarta. So Jacqueline, please come to the stage. Give her a round of applause. Our next speaker this morning is Daniel Ahern, who's the creative program lead at the ABC, so the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, where I used to work. So Dan, please come to the stage. And our final speaker this morning is Raven Lim. Raven is a podcast producer and content strategist based in Singapore. Raven, please come to the stage. Please give her a round of applause. Thank you. So we're going to have, we originally had another speaker for this session, but unfortunately he pulled out. So we have a bit more time for all three speakers to talk about their exciting projects and what they're doing in this space, which is fantastic. So without further ado, I'm now going to hand over to Jacqueline to do the first presentation of the morning.
Yay. Hello, good morning, Radiodays Asia. Can I get a bit of excitement? Good morning, Radiodays Asia. Thank you so much. So yeah, my name is Jacqueline Unique. I'm the program director of Mustang 8.0 Sounds of the Youth. I'm very honored and very nervous at the same time right now to be here with you today. And so please bear with me for the next 10 minutes of me yapping. Today I want to take you to Mustang 8.0 and how to live in the tagline, Sounds of the Youth. Yeah. As you can see, our tagline is Sounds of the Youth, to represent that Mustang is the voice of a generation, representing that what people think, what young people think, feel, and fight for. And then more than music, it's the sounds of youth energy, dreams, and expression. So with that in mind, we are a youth radio with a digital content mindset. A little bit of context of Mustang. Our core audience is from 15 to 25 years old, which already told before that is a very hard audience to grab. We do hit songs, K-pop, and whatnot. We do 80% of international music and 20% of our local pride. And our reach is around 400K listeners across radio and digital. So the main target is teenagers and K-pop enthusiasts. Why teenagers? We decided to focus on teenagers because, of course, they are not only the largest and most dynamic demographic in Indonesia, but also the most influential. You know, our youth doesn't just consume trends, but they created them. But even though they're not always the big spender on the brands, but they make a very good decision, or maybe they can influence their parents to buy something for their families. And for brands, this maintains a golden opportunity. And by making teenagers our main target, Mustang positions itself as a bridge between brands and huge possibilities for partnership in music, fashion, food, beverage, and all. And the second one is K-pop enthusiasts. Of course, the Korean wave is not just a trend, it's a cultural force. Even though in the survey in Indonesia, survey that shows that 3 out of 4 Indonesians enjoy K-drama, and nearly 2 out of 3 follows K-pop. That's why at Mustang, we also built a special program for Korea focus program that we're gonna talk about it later. So why we change? Of course, Gen Z in Indonesia is very, very, very online minded. You can see that they spend more than 1 to 6 hours daily, more than 50%, more than 65% of Indonesian Gen Z spend 1 to 6 hours daily online. That's why we made a bold change. We do need a station that both relevant and have an interactivity. You know, our Gen Z constantly connected, constantly engaging, and constantly shaping the culture. That's why we had to stop being just a broadcaster. We need to start being a community space. So, here's a video of what we do on Mustang for just a glimpse.
I'm not that easy to tame. You should see me under these lights. All my tears turn to ice. That's the sweetest escape. Every time the feeling kicks in, I might stay through the night. Bet you get it now. Rock that didn't I? Jack got touching my nose. I know I'm going to. Think you're running back? Guess we gonna be no more. Yeah, talk it. Don't got go hana.
Mustang Double 8.0 Sounds of the Youth.
So yeah, that's a glimpse of what we do on Mustang. To give you some context, we do Mustang school to school. We bring Mustang directly to high schoolers to their school. And then we do Mustang Night Out, when we blend radio with a nightlife culture. Of course, it's not for 15 years old. It's supposed to be a 21 plus event. And we do Mustang gigs. Of course, the radio is not a radio if we do not talk about music. And we also broadcast outside from cafes, so we can meet our listeners online in the real life. And to make some context of what we do in Mustang, I need to point out that there's a lot of homeless media here in Indonesia. You know, we know that in Indonesia today, there are so many so-called homeless media, unregistered, unregulated platform from Gen Z, which they are very familiar with. So here, where Mustang set itself apart, yes, of course, as you can see on the video, we are youthful, playful, and digital first, but we also a registered credible media platform, credible media organization. So when young people come to Mustang, they know that they just not getting an entertain, but also content that trustworthy. Moving on. So with that in mind, we do have formats and strategy. As you can see here, we kind of redesign our strategy to really grab the attention for the target we aim for. We make our brand, and then our announcer is not only just announcer, but all of them is content creator. All of our announcer is also big content creators on TikTok or Instagram. So with that in mind, we also expanded beyond radio into TikTok Live. And then our content, of course, supposed to be matters to youth. Real stories, real conversation, and real soundtrack of their everyday lives. That's why all of our announcer or host is, living the sounds of the youth tagline. One of our proudest initiative is giving the mic directly to the youth. As I said it before, it's very hard to grab the young audience. So we have something in mind that students or college students is not only listeners, but they are also the creators. So we empower them to share their voices, music tastes, and stories with a fresh youth-oriented energy program we call After Class. It's broadcast from 4 till 7 p.m. It's literally after the class in the school or college. So they can be the announcer for a day. And then we also have a feature called Must Pick Up. It's on-air and digital features, resonating sounds of the youth, which especially very needed, in this time of the Indonesia politics time. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of college students who wants to do the demonstration online, or maybe on you can say whatever you want to say to us, and we gonna we're gonna hear you and we wanna stand with you. And now, moving on to the second main target is the K-pop enthusiasts. Here's a little video of what we do with K on Mustang.
Mustang 8.0, Cia Wardana, K on Mustang, K on Mustang, di K on Mustang, K on Mustang, program Korea favorit kamu dan siaran di live TikTok kita di @mustang88fm.
Make me smile, you make me smile.
Hai Radio Days Asia, halo Radio Days Asia. Cocia Irakwamita Bangkap Semita. Hai, aku Cia Wardana from K on Mustang. Don't forget to watch K on Mustang TikTok live every Tuesday. Jadi aku bakalan siaran setiap hari Selasa. Jangan lupa untuk dengerin dan share sebanyak-banyaknya ya. Caker Om Cium Kaki Cawara dan Yasmita Tame Temanayo. Annyeong.
So yeah, that's what we do on K on Mustang. If you think that just only recorded, no, we do broadcast that shout out to Radio Asia last week on TikTok. So yeah, it's we claim it to be the best K-pop radio show in Jakarta. It's a 2-hour non-stop Korean hits, and not only our announcer talking about Korean music or Korean drama, but we also collaborate with fan base. You know how Korean fan base is very hardcore and they very lovable to their idols. So yeah, we give them space to talk about their idol every Tuesday. You know, with the live TikTok on and also on air, we try to deeper a fan engagement. So the sense of belonging of the show is not only with us but also with our audience. They can easily change the playlist for that day. Just simply request it on live TikTok. And then, of course, we can collab with them we do norebang, we do karaoke Korean with them, and then we can also support them whatever their on offline show. So yeah, why TikTok? Why TikTok? Why we do live TikTok? Because TikTok acts like modern day of search engine for the youth. If you're asking Indonesian Gen Z where the place to eat or where to hang out this weekend, they do not go to Google, they go instantly to TikTok. You know, TikTok is fast, authentic, and personal, while for us, Instagram is a really good gallery for PRing, but TikTok is very authentic. You can be blatantly truthful in TikTok. And that's what we wanted to do, to be more personal, to be more authentic. So with that, there's a lot of opportunities that open while we changing the direction of Mustang. We collaborate with creators. We don't see them as enemy or like that. We also invite a lot of content creators as guest announcer. And then we also expand our interview covering on social, making it like special podcasts on our YouTube channel, Mustang88FM. Please do subscribe. And it's about building bridges between what's happening online and what's happening on the air. And with that in mind, so Mustang is no longer just a station. We are making 150% to become a digital playground for teens with the heartbeat of K-pop and the home for interactive, relatable stories. So wherever young people scroll, swipe, stream, or hang out, they will find us. And now, I need to borrow a quote from a famous series. Have you ever seen, anyone here know Gossip Girl? So, yeah, I need to borrow a quote from a famous series, Gossip Girl, you are nobody until you talk about. So around 2 years ago, that's exactly the plan. So Radio Days, there's somebody that want to say hi.
Hi Mustang Gang, my name is Amy, and I'm your first AI radio DJ in Indonesia. I cannot wait to meet you on the air. See you very soon.
Well, that's it. That's all from me. Thank you. So If you remember the name Mustang, please remember Sounds of the Youth. Can I get it one more time? Mustang 8.0. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jacqueline, for a great presentation. I was very excited when I saw Jacqueline's slides last week. It was great to hear more about Mustang. So our next speaker is Daniel Ahern from the ABC. He's the Creative Program Lead, and I want to acknowledge two very proud parents in the front row. But I'll invite Dan to the stage.
Yes, hi everyone, and thanks Jacqueline for that too. I think it's so interesting that we've diagnosed very similar problems and actually have very similar solutions there, so I think that's a perfect setup for what I'll talk about today. So hi everyone, I'm Daniel Ahern. I manage the Creator Program at the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and today I want to share how we've tackled one of the biggest challenges facing traditional media, which is obviously connecting with younger audiences. That's why we're here. And we did that through working with social media content creators. Traditional media, as we know in this room, I think, continues to struggle with audiences aged between 16 and 34 years old. And this isn't just a challenge though, it's our biggest opportunity to grow reach. But we can't wait for these audiences to age into traditional platforms like they did in past generations. I think we understand the reality is stark. YouTube is now their TV and their podcast feed. TikTok is their discovery platform, and they resonate with creators much more than they resonate with traditional media talent. And I think creators really are actually our biggest competitors now in media organizations. It's less about competing with each other, and we're actually competing with people who are 20 years old filming themselves in their bedrooms and getting millions and millions of views. So we flipped the script. Instead of commissioning talent with traditional media skills and trying to grow them a large digital following, which is very, very difficult and often fails, we instead brought creators into our team who already had that large following intact, which is so powerful, and taught them traditional media skills. So in February last year, we launched the Creator Program, and that was to sit at the heart of our youth strategy in our then content division at the ABC, which was a mix of radio, audio, screen and digital teams. And we'd sort of been experimenting with the creator space for a few years, but that was mostly just commissioning creators externally. So we might commission a series of 5 TikTok videos or a certain amount of YouTube videos, but they were always sort of at arm's length. But we made a shift last year and we put them all on staff, working together in one integrated team with videographers as well, mentorship, production spaces and resource. So we selected 6 creators, all Australians, and 2 videographers from hundreds of applicants. But no, we didn't just go for the biggest names in the team, but those who were aligned with our content areas and we thought had long-term potential. And has it worked? Well, I would say it absolutely has. Over 120 million views across 18 months, 85% of them from people under 34 years old and largely from Australians. And this is all content in the ABC's traditional areas of strength, like science, history, religion, economics, geography, comedy, where for some of those areas at least, we had been struggling a bit to reach young audiences within our division. But the real success, I think, for us was career progression. So one of our creators, Aslan Pahari, got a commissioned history podcast, which came out of his YouTube pilots, and multiple creators made their debuts on radio and screen. Lena Tuck in our team as well became an entertainment reporter, and the majority of our team secured ongoing ABC projects. We also ran a 2-week mentorship program with some of Australia's biggest names in radio, podcasting, screen and digital, so that they could pass on their decades of experience and skills to this team as well. And it's important to understand our creators aren't just influencers. I think that term can be used sometimes quite negatively and pejoratively, but they're subject matter experts. Julian O'Shea, who is in our team, who's got about 100,000 followers on YouTube, he has a PhD in engineering, countless postgraduate degrees as well. He's very, very credible and a perfect fit for us. Maddie Massey too, one of our science communicators, is a biologist. Janice, who was making economics content for us as well as some food content as well, came to us from being a lawyer and a banker. So it's this combination of credibility, lived experience, digital skills, and on-screen authenticity that made them perfect for our public service mission, even though they had never, any of them, worked in media companies before. And I think we have so much to learn from these creators whose accounts are often bigger than media companies. They've fundamentally changed the game. And then these 6 creators sit within a broader talent network that we've cultivated, which include, we're still continuing to do commissions as well, because of course not everyone can take an on-staff job at the ABC. One of our creators, Building Beautifully, that we've worked with, who makes YouTube videos about city design, he is 23 years old. He's still at university, so he can't take a full-time job, but we still wanted to be able to work with him. So we have that external commissioning model as well. There are people in remote areas as well that we work with who, of course, couldn't take a staff role. So we're really trying to match our approach to each individual that we want to work with. And I'll go back to Aslan Pahari because I think he exemplifies everything that we're trying to achieve in this team. He's 27 years old. He's got degrees in anthropology and international studies. He's from a Pakistani-Australian background. He actually grew up, he learned English by watching the ABC, so he's got a great ABC story with us. And he's built 7 million global followers by explaining overlooked parts of history, religion, and culture. With his famous opening line, "Hello, my friend," which if you follow him, you would know. He says, "Hello, my friend," at the start of every video, and then he proceeds to kind of eviscerate the person who he very politely and debunk misinformation. He calls out misinformation on TikTok. So perfect fit for us because we, of course, call out misinformation too in our organisation all the time. But something we noticed when he came in is that he had never put substantial time into making podcasts or vodcasts. So we thought that that's an area that we could really add value when he came into the ABC, to make something with our resources and our team that his audience would find really novel and valuable and like an extension of what he was already making, and that they would actually come over onto our channels to watch that content because it's so different to what he was making on his own. So this resulted in, I think a good example is this explainer video on YouTube on the 1979 Siege of Mecca, which is a very interesting historic event that was actually not very well covered on YouTube. There wasn't an explainer on there that had properly gone into that. And that has 1.8 million views on YouTube. And I would say it's very hard to make young people engage with content about religion. So we were very happy with those numbers. He's also reported from around Australia while he was with us, hosted shows on Radio National as a guest host, and yeah, he's got that podcast now. And I'll give you just a bit of a taste of that video that we made with Aslan as well.
Imagine militants taking over the Grand Mosque in Mecca. Hard to believe, right? But around 40 years ago, that's exactly what happened. Hello, my friends. Let's unpack one of Saudi Arabia's most influential historical events that fundamentally transformed the Gulf state.
So go find that and you can watch that in your own time. But you'll see we kept his classic tagline, "Hello, my friends," there as well. It's too important to leave that out. And what I want to show you here is our development pathway that we're thinking about in our team in action. So with Aslan, we tested a whole heap of formats on TikTok first, because TikTok's really easy and fast. You can pump out a video every day or two. And so we wanted to try a whole lot of different topics and see what were those areas where the sort of content that he was interested in really worked for the ABC audience. And then we would use that data to build that into a few longer form, more intensive, original YouTube explainers. And then we used those YouTube explainers to pitch his proper podcast series, which is now in development. And that was sort of a proof of concept for that, and that will then live on our own platforms as well, so ABC iView and ABC Listen, so our two audio and video on-demand apps. I'll talk briefly about Julian O'Shea as well in our team. He's a Fulbright scholar, and he was recently named Australia's YouTube Breakout Creator of the Year. He makes videos highlighting the extraordinary design in everyday things, and videos about things that you probably wouldn't expect to get 8 million views, like why do escalators have grooves? I definitely, when he pitched that one to me, I definitely didn't think that was an 8 million viewer video, but there you go. I think it's a real testament to just how good creators can be at mastering a really interesting hook and, you know, packing all their information into a short, really engaging video. Another one there on why do trams in Melbourne carry sand got 2 million views as well. And they're funny sorts of videos, but they really are about engineering as well. And he goes into the nuts and bolts of the key concepts there too. And during his time he was with us, we set him up to host regular talkback segments on our breakfast show in Melbourne too, our radio breakfast show with Sammy J. So he hosted regular segments with him taking talkback, and something we saw that you touched on as well, Jacqueline, is that his because he's a creator and he does lots of TikTok lives, that TikTok live experience was actually quite analogous to the sort of skills you need to have to do traditional radio talkback as well. So we saw him be very successful in that context. We've also worked with Mary McGilvray since 2022. She's the best known art historian on TikTok globally, and she's doing her PhD and completed her master's at Cambridge. And luckily for us, she's Australian too, so she was a great get for us. She's made multiple TikTok series for us on Australian art history and global masterpieces. Went on to build on that to host a weekly segment on ABC's then arts TV show, The Art Of. And now she is a regular guest on Radio National's podcast, No One Saw It Coming, with Mark Fennell. And her clips with Mark get cut up on Instagram and shared digitally as well, and they're cross-posted to her followers as well to boost the engagement of that show. We have Tom Ford, finally, last person I'll speak to in our team. I can't get to all of them with the time constraint, but Tom's very interesting because he has built 2 million followers, mostly Gen Z, with sketch comedy videos that are quite common on TikTok if you use that platform. But he's also got a more serious side and has a journalism degree as well. So we saw sort of potential to do multiple things with him. But we did, of course, want to make comedy videos with him as well, and he did parodies of corporate life videos, live news delay parodies on, you know, all the awkward things that can happen during live news broadcasts. And those two together got about 20 million views on our TikTok accounts. And I think the corporate life videos are mostly him just satirizing me as his boss and using corporate jargon, or what he considered to be corporate jargon. But I'm glad it went well for him. And beyond TikTok, he's also worked with our youth radio station, Triple J. They used him to promote their sort of high school talent quest competition, Unearth High, on TikTok as well, and gained from sort of being able to leverage his following too. And this is what I was talking about before. This was our 2-week content camp, which was designed to bridge creators' skills gaps when they join the ABC. So we had a lot of radio hosts and podcasters sharing craft secrets with the team. And that really helped to sort of smooth that skills divide. And after the content camp, some of these media professionals actually stayed with us on retainer too, and were able to help the creators with more complex shoots or recordings ongoing, which was very useful. And we saw that this really paid off. So Julian, Mary and Aslan here became fixtures on ABC Radio while they were with us, helping our stations reach Australians who may not have tuned in otherwise, but specifically came to hear their favourite creators on the radio. And if we look at the comments on their videos or on the text line that came through, you could see that their existing audiences genuinely came over and were enthusiastic about the collaboration. And I think these sorts of comments show that we're selecting the right talent from a very broad creator pool who align with our brand. So in summary, how are we going for time, Andrew? I think creators are the future of media talent. We should want all our radio and podcast hosts to have the digital followings and cut-throughs that creators have. And you can get that. You just need to hire them. I think this will be key to staying relevant as Gen Z and millennials age up and change the game completely for traditional media companies. There's great opportunity, I think, for those who are bold enough to lean in. We get the best results, or we've seen at least for us, that when you hire creators with credentials, that's really important if you're a public service media organisation, and fully integrating them into the organisation and providing them with mentorship. Of course, there are some challenges too. They're very authentic, naturally authentic creators, and we have editorial standards and guidelines, and there's kind of a dance around how you get that all to work. But I think we made that work, and that can be done with good management. And again, creators, of course, prior to joining a company like ours, they were sometimes sole traders, so they had business opportunities. So there is some work in managing their external business opportunities as well while they're with us too. That can be sensitive, but again, it can be resolved through good management. And I would say too, creator content costs a fraction of per minute of television. Creators handle their production. They bring their own audiences in. And this is a huge opportunity for public broadcasters within fixed funding. We can learn a lot about their production processes to make our own funding go further. And podcasting is the perfect sandbox if you want to work with creators, because it's quite fast, it's a bit more niche than TV. It's a bit, sometimes lower stakes than TV if you've got that broadcast TV network. So you can start with podcasting and then scale them across your other assets in your organisation too. So I think I will leave that there. But yeah, we will have our next call out for the program up in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited to have a whole new group in at the ABC and what they'll do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Great presentation. And our final speaker this morning is Raven Lim. So Raven is a podcast producer and content strategist and has done a lot of training work with Deutsche Welle. So Raven is going to talk about that. But I also encourage you to, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please save them up, because we're going to have some questions at the end of Raven's presentation. So I'll hand over to Raven.
Hi everyone, I hope you have a great morning so far. So thank you for Jacqueline and Daniel for the very engaging presentation on how broadcasters are engaging the youth. So my background will be a bit different. I'm coming from the perspective of education, from the perspective of trainers. So I think my presentation may not be as exciting, but I'll try to make it engaging as possible. Okay, let's go. Okay, so and also, my name is Raven. I'm also very excited to present this podcast training manual we have for training our youth. So this is a process we've been working for the past few months, and it's finally ready. So I'll just like to give a bit of context to it. So since 2021, DW has been training media professionals, media houses, activists, freelance journalists, and youth in delivering, producing, and publishing podcasts, because we believe in making an audible difference, right? So we have seen how podcasts have been really like a tool to spread awareness, to build audiences. So we are very engaged in this. And throughout our training process, we realized that we need training tools. So one of the training tools we have developed is this podcast training manual. So this is the original, one of the original ones. It has about 16 manuals. It's available in 43 languages, and we have deployed it globally. We actually have a network of trainers for this manual. But however, in the past few years, we noticed a few interesting observations. One of it being the youth being one of the biggest consumption of podcasts. And we learned that the youth are discovering podcasts through YouTube, TikTok, and other forms of social media, and they are interested in topics from gaming and comedy to more serious ones like social issues and mental health. So, and over the world, we noticed that the youth have a different focus. For example, in Africa, I think in terms of podcasts, the youth are using it as a form of advocacy for media freedom, whereas in Asia, podcast growth is geared back towards mobile, whereas in the States and Europe, we have creators and influencers influencing the podcast scene as well. So we are also seeing a growing trend, I think as presented very well by the previous presenters, like the trend moving towards, like, instead of just consumption, the youth are using podcasts as a tool for expression, to spread their ideas, to build community, and also to build media literacy. So with that in mind, we decided to update our current podcast training manual, which is more for professionals, to a specifically a one for the youth as well. So I think what we want to do is that we want to make podcasting fun and engaging. So to encourage the youth to go out there and create our own shows, and we want to make it a very enjoyable process as well. So there are some couple of things. So this is, like, I would say, our mission when it comes to developing our podcast menu. So one of the things that we want to make it, I think, very important for us is user is very learner-centric. So basically, we want to come from the point, because we know, right, we don't want to have like a sit-down process where we just kind of like in the classroom where we just pass the information passively. We want them to be engaged. We want them to do activities. We also want them to like get out of their chairs as well to make it more lively. So this was a very important component when we are having this discussion on how to develop this menu. And the next thing we want to look at is adaptable, because we have trainers from all around the world, and I think we have training for the users. They could be as young as children, like 9 to 10 years old, or they could be teenagers, or they could be like in their 20s. So how do we cater for this wide group of audience as well? So that is one of the things we want to consider. And another thing we want to look at is because all around the world, the training venues could be very different. So it could be something like something as nice as where we are sitting, right, in a conference setting with a good AV system, and we give them the best equipment in terms of recording and editing. Or it could just be like a classroom with very low tech. There's no projector or anything. So how do we make this work? Regardless whether you're in Asia, you're in Africa, or you're in America, how do we make this training menu or travel across different countries? And another thing we want to do is adaptability, so accessibility. So we want to make it so that we don't have to train the trainers. So the trainers, once they have the menu, they pick it up and they can just plug and play, they can just deploy it immediately. So that is the thing that we want to do. We want to empower our trainers as well. And last but not least, we want to look at timelessness. So even with technology like AI, I think it doesn't really matter, because the core principles of storytelling and producing content should stay the same. So this is a global effort with 11 trainers from 8 different countries. We all come together to develop this menu for the youth. And since then, we have actually grown our network of youth trainers internationally as we deployed this menu around. So I think the idea is like we want to get the youth excited to do this, and also to get them to develop their voice and give them the confidence. So this is what we came up with. So this is recently launched, I think a couple of months ago. It's available in both physical and digital form. So it's free. So this is actually a free resource. You can contact DW to get a free copy for this. So I would like to break down like the different what it offers. So one of it is modular structure. So there are a lot of activities and methods. We do provide a structure for the training, so which I'll get into it, but you can take the different activities and methods to mix and match to customize your own need. So that is one of it. There is also interactive elements. So we do have a lot of activities, be it the actual recording, like how to produce a podcast, like we do get them to do activities on scripting, recording, and brainstorming. But we also have things like check-ins, energizers. So I will also go deeper into that. So it's not just podcast-centric, but we also make it have a range of activities to really keep them on their toes as well. And also this is adapted for internationally. So this has gone through like an international group. This is contributed, like whereas Singapore, America, Europe, we all have contributed to this development of this menu. So we want to make it culturally inclusive as possible. And this is also very flexible. So this menu you can deploy, it can be a in-person setting, it can be totally remote, or it can be a hybrid. So it's really up to the trainers as well. Last but not least, this menu is developed to connect with the larger group of our podcast community. So we do, at DW Academy, we do have our own podcast community, which we call Pod Circle. So basically we link with podcasters from all over the world. So this is also part of the program as well. Okay, so I would like to kind of break it down. So I hope it won't be so dry, but I'll just like to break it down. So this is like the manual structure. So it's devised in a way that is very easy and practical to deploy. So it is, so basically, like I said, you don't really need much training. So we help the trainers themselves, like what are the preparations they need to do to prepare for the training, what are the different modules that they can use, what are the different activities and methods. So let me just break it down further. So basically, we have two main structures when it comes to this menu. One is the quick start structure, and the other one is the standard module. So the quick starter has a module of 6 lessons at 90 minutes, whereas for the standard is 12 lessons of 90 minutes. So what we do is we also offer, we also offer recommendations on how this can be deployed, but of course you can adjust as it is. So let's say, let me just break it down. So I was talking about the different sessions, right? We kind of break it down to steps. So for example, like this is what I'm using right now. This is a stage where we call it the interview process itself. So our recommendation is, for example, this training module is 90 minutes and it has 5 activities. For example, it has a warm-up activity to get to ease the students into the process. It could be a form of an energizer or a game that they could play. And then we have the what we call the factual part, where we deploy the information, what is interview about. And then we have a group work and a group discussion. And then we have like explore, where we actually get to record. And then finally we have like a checkout, so they can like check, so they can offer reflections. But also at the same time, if you notice that our activities are divided by minutes as well. So if you want a shorter program, you can, for example, take out warm up or check out. That's an option. Or you can just maybe take one activity. So that was what we mean by when we develop a very modular structure where you can really customize based on your own needs. So I think we're running a bit short time, so I'll just quickly go through. So this is what I mean when we have different activities. So as we know, when we work with youth and children, sometimes they get distracted, or maybe there's food coma, or maybe they are feeling a bit low in energy. So these are some of the things that we try to get them engaged. So we have things like energizers, which we are like, get them to get out of their seat and move around. Like for example, this is for get them to do a dance, and then or play a game. And we want to kind of gamify the stuff. And we also have activities like, for example, if you want to do like a more in-depth on the recording, because for the interviews process, we're only asking the children or the teenagers to do an activity of interviewing. But if you want to have more activities about recording, sounds, and playing with them, we also have a suggestion for in-depth activities or related activities. And we also have a check-in, check-out to get people's vibe, how you're feeling. Are you feeling good, or get them to reflect what they have learned. So these are some of the activities we had. Okay, so these are the worksheets we developed as well, so they can help them in their planning process, whether it's to help them think and brainstorm, help them to structure their podcast, and also scripts to help them write. So practical worksheets. So of course, I think it's very important to talk about how this has been deployed. So recently, this has been deployed in Kenya. So Mototo News, they have done a 3-day podcast training under the Quick Starter module with about 34 children and teenagers. So and it was a great experience to get I think the children and the teenagers to have very hands-on, and they are going to deploy at a conference they have later in the year with about 2,000 kids. So closer to home, we have also deployed this in Japan as well. So this is part of, I believe there were 3 separate sessions working with about 30 adults and teenagers. So I think what is interesting about the customization, right? If you remember the one from Kenya, they have actually do the more tech where they are actually recording and editing, whereas for the Japanese deployment is more like conceptualizing, developing, and scripting and pitching. So you can really, as trainer, you can actually adjust the activities and methods really according to your needs. Yeah. So as we can see how this menu has traveled around the world and has been able to adapt to different cultural and international contexts. Yeah, so last but not least, some key takeaways we have learned along this journey. So one of the key takeaways is collaboration is key. I think the reason why we are able to do this menu that is adaptable wherever you are, what kind of venue, what kind of circumstances, what kind of learning group, is because we have inputs from everyone on what we want in a desired training product. And the next thing is youth-centered. The user design is very important. It's all designed around children and youth. If you look at activities, it's very different versus how you would train an adult. There's so much games, hands-on activities, and things that they can do. And last but not least, I think being able to adapt ensures impact, right? And also, even though we focus a lot on the user experience for the youth, we also focus a lot for the trainers, as you can see. It's really designed for the trainers. They can easily do it. They can deploy it. It's a plug and play, which makes it, works so well for us. Okay, so last but not least, thank you for listening through. I hope that you get something out of it, and maybe that is a tool if you're working with youth, that, especially with children and teenagers, that's something you could use for your training. And so if you want to connect with me, you can scan the QR code on the right. But if you want to get a copy of this free resource, so this is basically a free public resource. You can also scan here and get the QR code to access the more training materials and connect with DW as well. Thank you very much for your Thank you for your time. Okay.
Thank you very much, Raven. That was a great presentation. Now, we don't have much time for questions, unfortunately. Does anyone have a question for any of our 3 panelists this morning before we finish? Yes, sir. We might just get a quick microphone. Yeah, the microphone's just here, so we'll just... Got that working?
Check.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll be discussing in the next session. Just a very quick one. All these guys are amazing talent. The one big question is, how do we retain these guys? They are larger than life talent. Retaining them is the challenge that as broadcasters, but we need to look for as a strategy. How did you all address this?
Okay, so the question was, how do you retain the talent? So it's a question for Daniel and for Jacqueline, so maybe Jacqueline or one of you?
Okay, guys. Hello. It's very interesting because I thought that was going to be more of a challenge for us actually in this team, but I found that pretty much everyone who we had in the team wanted to stay even longer than we could necessarily keep them, at least in my direct team. And that's because we found people who really resonated with the mission of the broadcaster. And I think that's really key. It's who you select. And I think for us, we found that it was the creators in that more educational space who saw that there was a certain prestige to joining the ABC. And yeah, they consume our content and they really appreciate it. And also, they do see the value of TV and radio as well. We have large followings on those mediums too, and so they wanted to be sort of tap into that as well, which is a different audience again. So those would be the two factors.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna say. But with Mustang, we can also add the values from their content creator. I mean, we, like Daniel said, it's prestigious to be on our station, you know, to maximize their content, to maximize their reach to the greater audience that they couldn't even reach. And of course, with the same value, I think it's gonna be great.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but